In this video, Raven is working Indy for me. I had an Indy in training a year or two ago. We trained her for working cow horse, ranch riding, ranch trail, that kind of thing, and really good with the cow. She was originally sent to me for just straight reining, but Indy liked cows so much that we went more of the working cow direction. And she's been home for a good while since her training finished, and the owner is just had a baby and sent her back to me to keep riding her while she had the baby. And we're tuning her up, and a lot of what we're doing with her is tuning up her body position and doing a little bit of work with her mind and her attitude. I think she's 4 now, maybe 5, something like that. And she's a little bit pushy and a little bit wanting to get her own way. So what you're going to see Raven doing with her is a lot of body control. A lot of going back to the basics, even though she is a much more advanced horse. A lot of going back to the basics, like you see right there, doing a little bit of counter bend step around. And Robert is riding Mac over there. And at the last show, when we got back from the last show, I mentioned that Mac had bucked me off. And Robert's been riding him since we come back, and he's been an angel. So he's just kind of pushing him around a little bit, seeing what kind of attitude we get, seeing what we need to work on. He has not acted up since he came back. We're not really sure what caused that episode at the show. We're going to ride him between now and then take him to the next show in a couple weeks and see what happens. But anyway, back to Indy. Basically, Raven is taking her back to the beginning, back to the basics, working with her body control, working with bridling up, working with collection, moving her shoulders, moving her hips, that kind of thing, just refreshing what was originally done. Now she's got her one-handed. You'll see her going back and forth a good bit from one-handed to two-handed, and asking her to move around, bridle up. She has been shown one-handed, so she's that far along horse. Generally, I'll get a horse started with a leverage bit and started riding one-handed about 4 months under saddle. At that point, they have learned the basics of everything that a snaffle bit has taught them, and we're advancing to the more advanced body control things that a leverage bit would teach. You see there, Indy is bridling up nice, but she's not staying that way. And a lot of that has to do with just not quite maintaining the muscle to stay that way. So Raven will ask her to bridle up, then get soft. When she comes out of position, then she'll get soft again. You'll see here Raven's going to be working on this left lead a pretty good bit. Indy's not wanting to set her body up for it very well, and Raven's going to ask her to move her body around until she gets the lead that she wants. She's going to be pushing her shoulders off to the right, pushing her hips into the left, to get the lead that she wants. And she'll get it in a minute, and you'll see her lope a little bit. Looks like Robert is done with Mac. Mac's been riding good since we come back from that show. Not sure what happened, but we'll take him to the next one. He's only been hauled to a couple of shows. That could have been the reason for him bucking. It shouldn't have been. But it could have been. He's plenty broke enough, plenty far along, that shouldn't be a problem. There you see Raven moving the shoulders, moving the hip. It's the same body control that you need for anything that you're going to do, whether it's a spin, a stop, lope departure, lead changes. You have to have body control. You have to be able to put the body where you need it to do the job that you're asking for. Asked for it, got the wrong lead there. You see it, you saw her bump on her pretty hard. One of the things that Indy is doing, and it's a real common issue with a lot of horses that want to take a specific lead, And that's when you put the leg back and smooch and you ask for the lead, the horse does not lope off immediately because they're trying to move their body into the position that they want it in to get the lead that they want instead of the lead that you want. And I think what's been going on with Indy, and this is also really common, is the rider has been riding kind of a little bit stronger, holding on to one rein. So Indy is kind of in a permanent bend, that one direction, being resistant to that one rein, laying against it. So when you ask for a lead, she wants to get into that body position that she has been in. And this goes back to a lot of what I've talked about with young horses. Their muscles are so moldable into however you ride. You can ride and the muscles kind of develop into a left arc, or they can develop into a right arc, or they can develop into helping the body round up and support itself. And when you have a rider that hangs on one rein or hangs on one leg, the muscles are going to adapt to that. And that's why it's so important that a younger horse is ridden so that those muscles are developed to help the horse round his body and carry their body correctly. And Indy needs a little bit of remedial work for that. Just about all the horses that we get in that the owner is having trouble with one lead or the other, that is really the root of the issue. The owner is riding a little bit heavier on one hand. Typically, a right-handed person kind of balances on the right rein, then a left-handed person balances on the left rein. You see there, Indy's kind of throwing her head up. What she's doing, she's trying to throw her head up and trying to throw her body around into where she wants. It's all very common. It's typical stuff that horses do that's trying to get their body into the position that they want. And Raven's doing a really good job here of being patient and asking for a particular position. So you see there that she's in the wrong lead and Raven's just trying to bend her back. Now she's got the left lead picked up. And by lead, if you're not aware of leads, that means that when the feet hit the ground, the left foot is hitting the ground in front of the right foot. The left foot is in front of the front feet and in the back feet. Now she's going to work on getting her a little bit more round, getting her nose in. And also what goes along with that is getting the back lifted up and getting the hips engaged. She's going to be using her legs a lot. Watch her legs as she goes by. That's going to be lifting her back. The work with the reins is getting the nose tipped in. Basically, she wants to kind of compress Indy's spine like a spring. There's lifting her hands. I talk about that a lot. That helps to lift the horse's shoulders, lift the horse's middle. I see a lot of people getting their hands really low to collect the horse. And what happens when the hands are low, you're not really rounding the horse's back. By lifting the hands, you engage the bit, which helps to rotate the bit, rotate the horse's neck, stretch the neck out, and lift the shoulders. That's why it's really important to lift your hands and work with your hands up in front of you and not down by your thighs. When you're working with your hands down there, you're not really getting the horse in the position that the horse needs to be in. Right here, Indy's kind of fighting with her, trying to get into the position that Indy wants to be in instead of the position that Raven wants to be in. And Raven's just steady asking for that left bend, tuck her nose to the left to get the left lead instead of the right lead. We want good, smooth transitions, not lunging into them. Lunging into them, even if it is the correct lead, is not the way to do it. It's still not correct. When you see a horse pop its nose up in the lope departure like that, That means that the horse is pulling itself forward with the front end, not actually pushing itself forward with the back end. So anytime you see a horse lope off with a head bob up like that, that's all the body position and not using the back end to push off. Often when a horse wants to trot and fast trot and not lope, that is the reason for it. The horse is doing a lot of pulling with the front end and not enough pushing with the back end. If you think of a horse kind of like a four-wheel drive vehicle, and there she got a lead, left lead there. If you think of a horse kind of like a four-wheel drive vehicle, the front feet have to do the same amount of pulling as the back feet. Just like your gear ratio on the front has to be the same as the gear ratio on the back. And what'll happen with a horse is that because when they get heavy on their front end, the front end will do most of the pulling, and the back end won't do very much pushing. And when that happens, it's like to the horse, it feels like the back end can't keep up. And if the horse lopes off, it's like the back end won't be there. And that is usually the issue when you have a horse that does not want to transition into the lope. It means that they're not pushing hard enough with the back end. The speed that the back end is traveling is not keeping up with the speed of the front end. And that's a big part of what Raven was working on right there. And you see that a lot when the horse bobs its head up in the lope departures. So if you're having trouble with your horse's lope departure and all they want to do is fast trot, the problem is going to be in the engagement, the pushing in the back end.
If you live up north in one of the colder environments, we're in the south. Our winters are usually pretty mild, highs in the 70s, lows in the 40s. If you'd like to send your horse down so I can keep it conditioned over the winter so you'll be ready to show when it comes back in the spring, or if you have one you'd like to get started, it's a great time of the year to start them, and then in the springtime we'll send it back home and you'll be able to continue.
Now it looks like Raven's gone the other direction. Let's watch her for a minute and see how it goes and talk about it. Typically, horses have one direction that's better than the other direction, and let's see if this is the better or the worse direction. She's walking her a little bit first, probably letting her catch a little bit of wind, a little bit of air from working the other direction, and while she's walking, she's probably positioning her body around. It's important that you make the most of your training time. It's good, it's just efficient, but it's also good for the horse's body. So as she's walking her around, not just walking her on a loose rein, she's going to be walking her and ask her for her body to be where it needs to be for what she's about to ask her to do. Now she's in a trot, asked for a lope, picked the right lead up pretty good. We couldn't see it because it was in the corner where the camera's not really covering. But if you watch Indy move, she's looking like this direction is a little more comfortable for her, a little easier for her. And like I'd said earlier, her issues with not wanting to take the left lead, I believe, is due to the rider kind of hanging on that right rein, keeping her in a little bit of a right bend. So that's going to make the right lead easier because her body's wanting to be that way because that's how her muscles have kind of developed. So even though she needs a lot more work to the left, still going to work the right. You can't just ignore the better side and work the problem side. You still have to work the better side too. You see she's kind of bobbing her head this way a little bit too. She's not engaged in the back end. And if you watch, it's not like bobbing lame. It's bobbing because she's bringing her whole head and neck up to get her shoulders in a better position to move. It's not like a lame bob. It's a different movement. And if you watch horses, you should be able to tell the difference. Now right there, it looked like Raven's trying to position her body, and Indy's complaining about it. She swapped to the left lead there. It's all about body control. There we go. Raven was trying to round her up a little bit because her nose was out, which all ties in together with that not moving her body, not using her back end correctly. When the when the horse is doing like a rocking horse movement, the front's going up and down, the back's going up and down. That's usually caused from not pushing with the back end, and that's what Raven's trying to fix there. Trying to get her to push with the back end a little better. And that's a situation where Indy's not loping off when Raven says. I talked about that earlier in this video. She just schooled her and fussed at her about going when she says to go. That's really important. You have to get the horse's body in the position that it needs to be in for the maneuver you're asking for. And then when you smooch to go, the horse needs to go. It needs to push off and transition into a lope. Raven's working her body here, trying to get her a little bit more collected. This is probably going to be the where she's going to be stiffer to getting round because of kind of being leaned on with the right rein. Now watch what Indy does coming up. I believe it's the next time around by that black sign. She's going to get real heavy on her front leg, front left. Going to not want to steer. It almost looked like she's going to run into the wall and lose her forward right there, right there. And all that was caused from, and see how she's wanting to swap leads there? That was all caused from her body shifting its weight onto that front left leg. It caused her to drift out to the wall, and it caused the front end, the back end to disengage. And with that left shoulder out, that's why she wanted to pick back up the wrong lead. One little body position mishap on Indy's part. She wasn't holding that left shoulder up and using it correctly. That's what caused all that. So Raven just broke her back down, fixed her body position, and then loped back off again. That's where fitness plays a huge part. The horse needs to be fit to hold its body in that position. And at this point, I think Raven's been working her for somewhere around 16 minutes or so. So she's starting to get a little bit tired, and that's where the fitness comes in. She's not really breathing heavy. She's just, her muscles are getting physically tired. At one time, Indy had an okay spin. It wasn't great. It was something that we needed to go back and work on a little bit. And while Raven lets her catch her breath a little bit, she was asking her to step around. The issue that we had with Indy spin about the time that she was going home is that she had gone through a pretty big growth spurt in the back end, and her back end was a lot higher than her front end. So it threw her balance off front to back. And we weren't able to get her spin as far along as I would liked it to have been when she went home. So that's something we're playing with some here, playing with as much as we can. But in order to really put a lot of time into it, we've got to get her back end more engaged and get her muscle tone better. When that's better, we can spend more time on her spin.
I want to thank everybody for supporting me on Patreon. That's where I usually post some of the more detailed training videos. There's 3 levels: $5, $25, $75. $5 level, you get access to all those detailed training videos. $25 level, you get access to all the videos, plus you get 20% discount on video lessons, and you're entered for a drawing for a giveaway that I do once a month. $75 level, you get all of that, plus you get a free video lesson a month. I'll get thousands of questions a day. There's no way I can answer them all, but I answer Patreon questions every day. Patreon, Tim Anderson Horse Training. I appreciate everybody for supporting me there.
So that's an update on Indy and where she is right now. She is a very nice horse, and right now we just need to do some work on her muscle tone and getting her using her body back like she needs to. I have a playlist of her videos on YouTube if you'd like to take a look at those. I did her training all the way from the very first ride to finished and going to shows. So there's quite a few videos about her. Until next time, thank you for watching.